Hey, everybody. Welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am blessed and honored to be here with two guys that I really enjoy talking about immigration. Marc Topoleski, Ellis Porter, Shaju Jacob at Ellis Porter. These are the managing attorneys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Doing real good, real good.
So
Awesome.
Ben, I know you lived here in Michigan. Now you're in Texas. We can debate which D is the big D and the little D, but you missed out. This morning we woke up and we had about an inch of snow on the ground. I bet you missed that.
You know, when I moved to Texas, I was the only person on my block that had a snow shovel. I had two. Actually, my landlord laughed at me because he hadn't seen one in 18 years. He lived in Lansing. He hadn't seen one in 18 years. He went home, told his wife about it. The next day we got an ice storm to end all ice storms. I was out there shoveling my walk, and like I shoveled some of the sidewalk. I let the neighbors use it. It was really nice. Big team building event here in the neighborhood.
You knew what to do with it.
Yeah, I did. Other people, this one person was out there with a spade shovel. They're breaking ice on their driveway with a spade shovel. I'm like, you're not gonna have a driveway when this thing melts. You know that, right? Like,
I went to law school in Nashville. It was kind of the same thing. Like when they would get the forecast for snow, they would close the school based on the forecast. People would run to the store. They'd buy all the milk, buy all the salt. It's crazy.
I love it. Yo, let's find out where everybody is today. Go ahead and check in. We got a bunch of people checking in on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. This is great. Go ahead and leave a comment. I want to know who you are, where you are, what you're up to right now. Was there snow on the ground when you woke up this morning? If so, how much? Which D is the biggest? Is it Detroit? Is it Dallas? I mean, throw it in the comments here. Let's see what's up. We got Jilly from Deluxe Suites. What's up, Jill Partake, one of my favorite people from the MIT. Miss you, Jill. Hope you're doing well. Arvinder checking in from London. You know this guy, right?
Yep, he's an Ellis Porter guy.
Nice. You guys have people in London town?
We do. Yeah, we opened an office there about a year and a half ago. So Arvinder worked at Ellis Porter in the U.S. He's from the UK. Came here, did the law school in the United States. We hired him right out of law school. Taught him everything he knows, and then
took a long time.
Took a long time. Is he over there on the proper paperwork over there?
Well, he's a UK citizen, so yeah, he went back home, moved his wife over there, and now we've been dying to make our trip over and visit the office, and we haven't been able to do it because of COVID. So as soon as things lighten up, we're heading over, and I already have a trip to the pubs planned.
Please, I'm trying to go to London too, like in July. Arvinder, when is it going to open up? When are we going to be allowed in? Let us know. I got my vaccine. I'm ready, man. Let me know. We've got Tim Quirk checking in here. Hello, gents from Western New York checking in. Looking forward to today's conversation. I know they had a few inches on the ground there. Janet Turner, hey, only sunshine today. Janet, when was the last time it snowed in Sorrento, Florida? Let me know. Jensen Lau from Philly. All right, we got some new people checking in. This is cool. Zach from Ann Arbor. A little snow here, all Detroit. What's up, Zach? Simon Johns from the UK. Simon, is it gin and tonic time over there? Let me know. Valerie McKenzie, Deluxe again, checking in from Houston. What up, H-Town in the house? Jason Rollins from Foxborough, Mass. Preferred corporate housing. With the corporate housing folks in the house here.
Shaju's got people in Houston.
I do.
You got people in Houston? That sounds ominous. What kind of people you got in Houston, man?
I got a lot of cousins in Houston and Dallas, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Irving, Texas, in the Dallas area, and then
we claim Irving.
Yeah, and then Houston, which I can't go to in the summer months because the humidity is horrible for my hair. But yeah,
I don't even know why I laughed. I saw that come in. I didn't want to laugh, and I couldn't help myself, and I laughed.
But yeah, I've got family in both Houston and Dallas.
That's what's up, man. Are you Are you from Detroit originally, or are you from Texas?
Yeah, born and raised here in Metro Detroit.
Mean streets of Oak Park.
Yeah, that's right.
They were meaner. They were meaner a little bit ago. I mean, they're kind of gentrified nowadays, but they were kind of mean, right, back in the day.
When I was roaming the streets, it was dangerous.
So I've been Shaju and I have been partners since like 2005, so 16 years. And I learned something new about him the other day that I didn't know. He's one of the only people I've met who absolutely loathes the zoo. Tell them why you hate zoos, Shaju.
I mean, I hate zoos more than animals hate zoos. I lived in Oak Park, right across from the Detroit Zoo, for people from in the area, and before 696 was built. And anytime family came into town from out of the country or wherever, my dad would just make me take them to the Detroit Zoo. I've probably been there. I'm not even exaggerating if I say a couple hundred times. So I hate the zoo with a passion, and
Right?
I'm
Who
traumatized.
hates the zoo?
I hate
Who
it.
hates the zoo?
You know what? I think I kind of hate the zoo too. I'll be
Boom.
honest with you. You know what it
Start
is,
club.
Mark? It's the whole animal slavery thing. That's really what I'm having trouble
All right.
with. Is like, you know what?
I hear you.
Are these animals here on their own volition? You know, I mean, I
Probably
think that
not.
even goes. We can start off. We're going to start off real concontroversial. You know, I mean,
Right.
I'm just gonna, you know, if they were here, I mean, just take the chains off, open the gates. You know,
Right.
see if they stick around. If they do,
I've seen a picture with you and your one of your kids. You have one kid, two kids. What do you got?
2 kids. I got 2 kids.
Okay.
Most of the
Have you
time.
taken them to the zoo ever?
My wife loves the zoo. She was like a
Okay.
member of the zoo.
All right.
I
member of
turn
the
a
zoo?
blind eye. Yeah, she supports the whatever animal equivalent
cruelty.
of patriarchy. Yeah, she supports it. Tim Quirk, I say boo for the zoo.
Ooh.
See, I've got a following. We're going to start a club. We're going to start something.
Mark
movement.
says ooh for the zoo.
Right.
Arvinder, Ben Cross, hopefully we'll be fully out of lockdown on June 21st. First round on me. Arvinder, it's going to be a quadruple, just to let you know. Simon Johns, yes and yes, the pubs are open, outside only, though.
Our vendor's been saying not only a trip to the pub, but when we go there, he's telling us about this Scotch tour they do up in Scotland. You just stay in the house on the grounds. I know you'd like that, Ben. I know you're a whiskey guy. It sounds amazing.
Dude, seriously though, I'm not even playing right now. We can end the show right now and just have a talk. I am so down on that. Okay, here's my plan. Okay, and I promise we're going to talk about immigration. Okay, but first we're talking about getting out of this country. Okay, I am sending my wife and the kids in July. Probably whisper this. I'm sending my wife and my kids in July to the Poconos for 2 weeks, see the in-laws, and I'm going on a business trip over to the UK. And you guys are more than welcome. Breaking news here, Simon. I'm coming for you. So just prepare, and we can plan accordingly. FYI.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan.
But you guys were just talking about you guys been partners since you said 2006. Is that right? How did you guys 5? How did the first tell me how the company came to be, and then I want to know how you guys kind of linked up.
Okay, so I started the firm back in 2003. I started doing employment law. Didn't really love it. A little bit too contentious for me. I was looking for a field that I kind of felt like I was working with the clients together, not kind of always fighting against people. And so kind of fell into the immigration field. Worked at a couple firms, and I just didn't love how they were delivering the immigration service. These are bigger firms that did everything by the billable hour. And I said, I think there's a better way to do this stuff, a better way to deliver the service, better way to use technology. And they weren't interested in doing it because, one, they said, what are you telling me? If you make it more efficient, that means you're going to bill less hours and we're going to make more money. I don't like the sound of that. And I said, well, but if you're billing by flat fees, which is very common in immigration, you're billing flat fees and you can use technology to be super efficient, you're more profitable than you are billing hours. They said, but then how many hours are you going to bill? And so I left and decided to start Ellis Porter in 2003. Funny story about the name. So when I started the firm, it was just me. But I was doing employment-based immigration, and so you're working with companies, and I was a little self-conscious about knowing that having the companies know that it was just me, doing the work, and so I wanted a name that sounded a little bit bigger than Marc Topoleski law firm.
You didn't like Topoleski and Associates and have a ring to it. You weren't.
I didn't. It didn't roll off the tongue, and so decided I had to do some research to see if this is even allowed, but said, I'm going to make up a name that's just a fictitious name. It's not a name of anybody at the firm. And let's have that name kind of focus on our mission instead of focus on me or whoever any future partners of the firm could be. So Ellis, the word Ellis was a kind of a nod to Ellis Island as a symbol of opportunity historically for immigrants. We kind of really like that. And then, and Porter, the dictionary definition of a porter is someone you engage to bear your burdens or kind of carry the load when you arrive at a new place, and it's like, that's what we do as immigration attorneys. Our job is to do the heavy lifting for our clients so they don't have the anxiety and they can focus on their work. And Ellis Porter just kind of had a nice ring to it. I'll never forget the night I came home and laying in bed with my wife. I got this idea. We're going to call this firm Ellis Porter. She's like, that's crazy. I think you're crazy. But the more we talked about it, the more it made sense, and we went with it. And it's probably been one of the best decisions we made, because Shaju talks about this all the time too. But as we've grown, when you're getting people to kind of buy into the mission, say, look, our mission is about the clients. It's clients first. We're here to serve our clients. And when my name's not on the door and Shaju's name's not on the door, and people are coming in, it's much more easier for them to buy into that mission when the name of the firm is Ellis Porter. So it's been really great, and it's a fun story to tell. We dallied at one point we had a bigger firm who wanted to do this little joint venture with us. So we did that. Shaju was working at that bigger firm at the time. So he came over, joined Ellis Porter. We did that for about a year. And then we decided, you know what? It just didn't work. All the benefits we thought there might be of kind of partnering up with a bigger firm just didn't pan out. And so we said, you know what, we're nice experiment, but we want to go back to just being Ellis Porter by ourselves. And we made the pitch for Shaju to stay on. And so the trade with the firm is we got Shaju in a bag of balls, as they say. So.
A player to be named later that never showed up.
Yeah, exactly.
Sandra Clary saying, I love that name, Genesis story.
Thanks,
I love it too, Mark. And I think that anytime you have a story and you have like a real purpose behind why you name something the way, and you could tell the story the way that you've articulated, I think people connect with that in a really real way. And there's obviously passion and purpose there. But I loved your wife's reaction when she said you were crazy. I mean, I just, as a new entrepreneur myself, I love that moment in entrepreneurs' lives when they say, you know what, I'm going to go do my own thing. What was that moment like for you? What can you remember what you were feeling then, and the conversations that your wife was probably having with you in that moment? I'm just really
yeah, it was some. Man, I don't know how deep.
Are you allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know how deep we want to go on this one, Ben.
It's the internet, dude. You can do whatever you want.
My wife said she might even be checking in on this, so we gotta. But it was a scary time. We had two small kids under 2. My wife wasn't working; she was staying home with the kids, and I said, this is just something I have to do. And we talked about it, and again, she thought it was crazy. But the more we talked about it, the more she said, you know what, you got to do it. It's the right thing to do for you and for the family. And she said, I support you 100%. And that's all I needed to hear. And then even though at the time, then we went through some lean times when you only had, a little money in the checking, a little money in the savings. You're like, how are you going to make this work? And I remember too, starting out, we're all about giving out free advice and just trying to help wherever we could. And my wife's like, man, we should be billing for all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to take the long-term view. We're going to help first. And I think the revenue will follow. And we took that approach. She supported me in that approach, and it's worked out. I love that.
Yeah. I love that. And when you said when your wife finally came around, when your partner can say, you know what, just do it, I support you. That gives you so much confidence. I remember the morning that my wife said that to me when I walked into my job, and I basically told them, hey, I'm out. I felt such a peace inside me when I knew that my wife had my back on that. And that's incredible. And I appreciate you sharing that also. And I love what you're talking about, playing the long game, because, I think even no matter how old you are, I don't think you're too old to play the long game. I think that sometimes we start thinking that we're older than we are, and we don't play the long game. But I think that sowing those seeds, you're still reaping those right now, Mark.
Yeah,
and you're going to continue doing it, just from what I know about you. But Shaju, tell me about like how you linked up with Mark here. I'm always curious when partners come together, when they choose to be together, when they're not family and they're not I'm going to go on a limb, not romantically involved. When they choose to be together, I'm always fascinated by partnerships coming together, especially ones that last. And this has been 16 years now. So
yeah.
How did that happen?
I mean, I think like any partnership, and we talk about this all the time. It is in a way like we're married, but you have to share values. And if you have the same shared values, it's going to work. As Mark said, I came from a large firm, and I felt they were doing immigration in a way that I didn't think was the right way to do it. It took a lot of the fun out of it, and I didn't think it was as beneficial to the clients. So
is immigration supposed to be fun? Is that like a key pillar though? Or
are you kidding me? Yeah, we make it fun.
Party
and
all the time.
yeah, as I think as fun as you can make immigration or make law in general, I think that's been one of our calling cards. But for the first time, I really enjoyed the culture and the approach and the values, and so it was a natural fit. So when I had a choice to go, manage the group at a large firm or start this, we were definitely a startup. It was a no-brainer. And my dad, an immigrant himself, who was an entrepreneur his whole life, or most of his life, kind of instilled that into me as well. So I had a little bit of that in my DNA.
Well, I want to ask you too, along those lines, Shaju, what made you get into immigration law? We heard from Mark, he just preferred it to employment law where everybody was fighting all the time. But why did you decide to get into immigration law?
Yeah, I mean, I was that typical, fifth grader riding his bike saying, one day I want to be an immigration attorney. No, said no one ever.
I mean, people do aspire to be, attorneys, though, at least, not like movers. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I ended up being a call center, working in a call center for a moving company. So, I mean,
I found myself in law school, and I said the two things I'll never do is probably criminal defense and immigration law. And my first job was criminal defense, and my second job was immigration. So, yeah, that's life for you. But I really enjoyed it when I got a taste of working in transactional area of law versus litigation. It fit my personality, and it was just a great fit. The area was interesting. I definitely had an attachment to it from family background, and I found a place, and that was really key in law where I really enjoyed practicing, and that was probably the biggest factors.
Yeah, this is awesome. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I think that's a theme that runs throughout the firm. My mother immigrated from Germany, and so I grew up, and my dad's parents immigrated from Poland, so I grew up around that immigration mentality, and you see that throughout our firm. I mean, not every single person at our firm has that connection, but I'd say 90% of the people at our firm are immigrants themselves. Their parents were immigrants. They have an immigrant story. Shaju jokes about, because I always, in a part of an interview process, I want to understand the connection to immigration, because this is an area of law where what we're doing is you got to philosophically believe in it. You have to believe that immigration is good for America. It benefits America economically and culturally. And you got to believe that strongly to go through all the stuff that we have to go through as immigration attorneys to deliver our service and help our clients. So that's a theme throughout the firm, is people have that immigrant connection. But one quick funny story, when you said about how did Shaju hook up with us? Well, forget the first day he showed up when his firm merged with our firm. We told everybody, like, be casual. We're going to do a lot of moving and stuff. And then after I'd said that, I found out I had a client meeting, so I had to throw a suit on. And usually, again, we don't wear suits. We're a super casual, not a stuffy firm. But that day I had a suit on. Shaju shows up with a Joey Harrington Detroit Lions jersey on, and he said he left the house that day, and his dad thought he had got fired from his job. He didn't believe in that he had a new lawyer job.
They told me we were going to do a lot of moving of files, like physically moving. So I wore jeans and a jersey because I thought we'd actually be like unloading file boxes. And I opened the door, and Mark's wearing a suit, and I thought someone set me up from the firm, and I was just like,
Yeah, 100%.
Man.
Not even like the classy Mitchell and Ness Barry Sanders jersey,
Right.
like a Joey Harrington. Probably like went through the dryer, the numbers peeling off. Like
Right.
No, it was pristine. That's when we believed in Joey, and we thought he was going to take us to the Super Bowl. So.
Wow, man, that's great. Does every immigration attorney an idealist like that, Shaju? Is that a prerequisite?
You got to keep hope alive. Definitely.
There we go. Let's see. We got some comments coming in here. I appreciate everybody that's watching right now. I want to know what your questions are regarding immigration. Please leave those in the questions. I promise we're going to have some immigration, real deal, nuts and bolts immigration talk here. Maybe. Emily Kozabowski, what a great name and mission.
Thanks, Emily.
For sure, Emily. Elizabeth, hi there, checking in from Connecticut. Elizabeth, you're the risk expert. Elizabeth did a risky business episode on Clubhouse today. Elizabeth, is there any insurance or risk in the immigration process? I'm very curious how you would insure that, if at all. Let's see here. Ben Sukia, good evening, Mr. Cross. Great discussion about the best area of global mobility, immigration.
Ben and Arvinder, I think they know each other. Yeah.
You know, it's so funny because I talk to a lot of people. I'm Captain Obvious. I talk to a lot of people on the show, and every single one of them thinks that their vertical is the most important in the process. They're like, oh, well, without that corporate housing experience, you know,
no.
What's going to happen? You know,
without the visa, you can't move the person. Yeah. So I think immigration is the one, right?
Maybe. I mean, there's people that come over without visas all the time. I can make an argument against all of them. Without those used couches, where are people going to sit? You know, right. I mean, this is, you know, these are the conversations we have all the time. Let's see. We got some real deal questions. I appreciate real serious people here hanging in here. Krina, question: can we file the H-1 petition that got picked up in this year's lottery while the candidate is in India? Can they travel with H-4 stamping and later make an amendment? Please advise on the options that we can choose.
That's you, Shaju.
Yeah.
I know we just pivoted from like the most ridiculous conversation into like a hard-hitting
serious
question.
Right. So he wants to know how I feel about zoos. I get it. You definitely can file for an H-1B petition while the individual is outside of the country. It'll be an NIV kind of filing. And so normally what they do is once it's approved, sometime at the end of September, 10 days before the end of September, they get a visa and they can come back in. This individual has the opportunity to come in on a different visa, an H-4 dependent of an H-1B. And so you can do that as well. You can come in on an H-4 and later on do a change of status. So there's multiple options to get the person here.
And Ben, on that topic, so he's kind of talking about the H-1B lottery. I know you and I were on a phone call the other day. I love how you're always networking while we were on the phone, and you had an HR professional on the phone who was asking some questions about the H-1B lottery. But I thought, Shaju kind of leads our H-1B lottery project. With a lot of great people at Ellis Porter make that work every year. It's a crazy time of year for us, but it's been different these last couple of years with this pre-registration process, which is new. And then this year it was kind of a surprise. The selection rate was a lot further lower than we thought it would be.
That's what I keep hearing. Yeah. What are you hearing as far as selection rate? What do you think? What would you put that at?
Yeah, so normally the USCIS hasn't released any data yet, but what we're hearing anecdotally through other immigration attorneys is about 20%, which is significantly lower. I would say last year we were at around 45%. So to be at 20% is kind of shocking. And so that means either the number of people have filed, was higher than it's ever been before. So we have to wait and see what the USCIS releases in terms of data. One thing that we're hearing, though, a lot of the chatter, a lot of people reporting, is certain individuals had multiple companies file for them. So if that's the case, and there's really nothing in the system, and that might be an issue with the system, that they prevent one employer from filing multiple applications for the same person, but there's nothing preventing one guy having like 6 companies file for him. So, that's what we're starting to wonder if that's what happened. And my hope is they're still going to only end up having one company end up filing the petition. So maybe in the summer, they'll run the H-1B lottery again for unfulfilled numbers. They did that last year because of COVID, right? COVID happened in March, the lottery happened in April, and they found out a lot of people they got selected, but the companies didn't want to file because of the uncertainty. And so then in the summer, they said, hey, we have still a bunch of unused numbers. So they ran a mini lottery again. I'm hoping that's what happens this year, because that 20% is ridiculously low.
Yeah, and we had about 26%, but again, from last year's 43%, quite a big drop. And Ben, I was talking to Gabby on your contact.
Yeah, Gabby Bachhuber. Yeah, yep. Shout out to Gabby
on LinkedIn. And right after the cap selection happened, she had asked me, do I think are they going to run another a second lottery? And I said, I don't think so, based on what we were hearing. But since then, based on what Shaju's saying, hearing all these stories about these multiple companies filing for the same person, depending on how common that was, I mean, again, if 5 companies filed for one person, only one of them is going to be able to file the H-1B. So 4 of those numbers are going to go unused. And if that's happening 20, 30, 40% of the time, there's going to be a lot of unused numbers, and they're going to run a second lottery. So I'm changing my position on that, Gabby. I think it may be, I mean, no one knows for sure, but it may be possible.
There may be some, but and I'm probably, 100% the most uninformed person in this conversation right now. But when there's a 20% selection rate, and say that one person filed with 5 different was filed with 5 different companies, and one of them, I mean, the odds that they get selected is 1 in 5. So I mean, of that, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many people got selected, I guess, multiple times, right? I mean, that's the big thing we don't know. What do you think? I mean, is that the biggest thing that led to, I heard somebody estimate 300,000 applicants. Is that what led to, is that the biggest part of this huge application wave, or is it pent-up demand? Or what are your thoughts on other reasons that we saw so many applicants this year?
My feeling is around 250 to 300 tends to be the normal. It's what the market demands, right? So, we're looking in the 90s when they raised the H-1B cap to a significantly higher number. We never ran out of numbers, and they never went over 200,000 H-1B numbers. So then that law sunset right during the .com bust. And it's never been renewed since. And so now we have this artificial number, which is clearly low. And I think if they raise the number to around 250,000, that's probably the sweet spot. That's probably how many companies are looking to bring in every year. But I just think they need to let the market dictate. Yeah. And companies are not doing this for any other reason other than they need the talent. They need the resources here. They've got to pay government filing fees. They've got to pay attorney fees, and all the additional hassles that come with bringing foreign talent here. So they're doing it because they need to. And I think the solution is just raise the H-1B cap numbers. Take this artificial thing away from it, and then you'll get away from people trying to game the system and be creative and try all of these hacks to get around it. And I think that's the best way to do it.
Mark, what do you think about taking away a cap on H-1Bs? I mean,
I was going to say my degree from Michigan State is in economics, so I'm an economist at heart, and my economists would say let the free market dictate how many visas are available. And there have been studies that have shown when unemployment rates are low, the number of visas that are needed and requested by employers goes up, but when unemployment goes down, the numbers go down. So it's going to track the economy. People are worried, well, if you raise the cap, then you're just going to be flooded with the system and you're going to put Americans out of work. And it just doesn't, the facts don't bear that out. And I think just let the market decide, don't pin this artificial number on it. And then you have these artificial selection processes, which again, it's a random lottery. If you look at a country like Canada, I mean, they're setting up immigration laws to meet strategic objectives of the country and say, we need these specific people, so we're going to prioritize people in these positions. In the U.S., we say, if you qualify for H-1B, it has to be a professional position requiring a bachelor's degree. But other than that, it doesn't matter if you're a librarian or you're a programmer at Google, you have the same chance in the lottery. And nothing against librarians, but I think again, as a country, we should be prioritizing and saying, hey, here's all the skill sets we need for a country, and let's find a way to prioritize it. So the H-1B cap system is broken. The artificial cap is one of the problems, and not prioritizing the skill sets we're using it for is, I think, another big one.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know movers that actually get movers from Romania to deal with the summer influx of moves. It's pretty interesting. We got another question here from Magella. Question: can UK companies travel to the US on a B business visa at present?
All right. I'll take that one. So I think he means people who working for UK companies. Can they come over? But the answer right now is so. It's difficult. So right now, let's get into the immigration update part, right? So they're with the Biden administration coming online, his first 100 days, there've been a lot of good things that have happened. He's got rid of the Muslim ban on day one, got rid of things like the public charge rule, and he rescinded some kind of bad rules and regulations from the previous administration and delayed some other ones. So there's a lot happening. He did get rid of what's called the Immigrant Visa Ban, and there was also a visa ban where H's and L's and some J visa categories, the consuls weren't allowed to issue those to new people. And the Biden administration let that sunset at the end of March. But the main restriction that remains in place is this geographic travel restriction. So for individuals who are, so basically what the rule says is if you're trying to come to the United States and within the 14 days prior to entering the United States, if you have been in China, Brazil, Iran, South Africa, Ireland, the UK, or any of the Schengen countries, again, 14 days prior to entry, you're not allowed into the United States, and that's for COVID reasons. And so the only way that a person can now come to the United States, if you're boots on the ground in one of those countries, either you have to go to like Mexico and sit in Mexico for 14 days and then enter the United States from Mexico. So not the most convenient thing to do, can be expensive, although maybe you'd sit on the beach. Or you have to request something called a national interest exception to these travel bans, and they're tough to get. They've limited it to just, you have to be able to show that there's a really urgent purpose for you to come to the United States. And even recently, the Biden administration dialed it down even more specific, and so you have to show that you're coming to kind of support critical infrastructure needs in the United States. And so we have a lot of clients in the automotive industry, and if they have someone over who's coming to work on a really critical project that if they're not there, a production line may be delayed, that there's a good argument that person could get a national interest exemption and come over on a B visa. But if you're just coming over for a general meeting or to attend a conference or something like that, which pre-COVID you're absolutely free to do using a B visa, that's going to be a tough sell to get a national interest exemption. So in that case, the only way to get here would be to go somewhere else, for 14 days and then enter the U.S. from there.
Wow, cool. Lots to think about there. Yeah, I was just talking to somebody in Brazil today, and they were saying that the only way to get into the States from Brazil is to probably go through Mexico and just wait it out. So really interesting stuff here. I'd love to encourage anybody that's watching right now to get your immigration questions answered free of charge. Free legal advice, right? Get what you pay for. Jackie Rowan says, are you still seeing a high percentage of RFEs on L's and E's? I don't even know what this sentence means. I hope you guys do.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I'll clarify the terminology, then I'll let Shaju answer the question. So an L1 visas are what are called intercompany transfer visas. So it's for anybody who's, for a global company and you've worked for the foreign entity for at least a year, and then you're coming into the United States to work either in an executive or managerial capacity, which is L1A, or what's called a specialized knowledge capacity, L1B. The E visas are a treaty-based visa, so can't be used for every country, only countries that have a qualifying investment treaty with the United States, but it would allow a person to come to the United States if either they individually have made an investment in a U.S. business or their company a foreign company has made an investment in U.S. business and they're coming over as an employee of those companies. So that's the terminology. But yeah, Shaju, why don't you fill us in on what you've been seeing on the RFE trends?
Yeah, the RFE means request for evidence, and I would say in the previous administration, in the old days, getting an RFE was a rarity. If you put everything you needed in the original filing, it should get approved. But in the previous administration, we were getting monster RFEs, and monster is a legal term. And and it's
what would a monster RFE be requesting?
I mean, it's like 6 or 7 pages of requesting complete nonsense. Sometimes many things that were already originally included in the petition. So the feeling was they weren't even reading it in some cases. But that being said, it's really early to tell. I mean, the Biden administration is just recently taken over, and the machine, it takes a while to create change and maybe turn the ship around. But we are seeing a slight decrease in the number of RFEs. So the trend line is getting better. I like the direction it's going in with respect to L's and E's, and definitely in H-1Bs, they're going much smoother. but they're still high. They're still high from what they used to be, and we're hoping that as communication gets through the adjudicators in USCIS, they can say, hey, stop picking on these cases for no reason.
Because in some categories, Ben, it was going from like 20% RFE rates to over 60% RFE rates on these cases. And again, a lot of the times it wasn't even on legally relevant issues. So, but I do think, yes, what we're seeing is, like Shaju said, a slight decrease in the number, the volume, which is good. And I also think too, a decrease in just the ridiculous ones, right? When they're issuing RFE, at least they're arguably legally relevant, whereas before they were just making stuff up.
Just as kind of an outsider, my observation is that the last administration was kind of anti-immigration. And the idea was that this new administration would be much more pro-immigration or moderate, right? But I'm also hearing that maybe it's not as black and white, night and day of a change as maybe we had thought it was going to be. Are you, how would you characterize the difference in the new administration? Is it dramatic, or is it kind of slight and more measured?
Again, like Shaju said, I think it's a little early to tell. And the other reason why I don't think we can make a full judgment on that is because right now they're making decisions based on COVID. They're not making really necessarily policy decisions. I think you can argue a lot of the decisions of the previous administration, sometimes they were pretextual and saying it was about COVID, but maybe it was really just about restricting immigration. Now, again, some of these policies remain in place, but I think it really is because this administration is focusing on the COVID issue and taking it very seriously. So I think until we get past COVID, we won't know for sure what's driving this administration and their policy. But I would say, if you look at things that they said, before they came into office, they definitely are more in favor of immigration. They're more positive on immigration. They believe in the value of immigration for America. That said, the Democratic Party also historically is protectionist of labor. And again, immigration, there's always a little bit of rub there. When you're bringing in immigrants, how does that affect, U.S. labor? So it's not going to be open the floodgates kind of thing, I don't think. That's just not going to happen. But I think the pendulum had swung so far the other direction. Even coming back to the middle is a huge win for employers. But I think it's going to come back, to the middle and be positive. But yeah, it's not going to swing all the way to the other side either, because they have a constituency too that they need to keep an eye on as well. So I think they're going to do smart immigration reforms. Again, nothing that's based on xenophobic concerns, but they may make some things that appear slightly restrictive, but it's coming from a place of either in the short term COVID concerns, and then in the long term kind of just labor protection concerns.
Yeah, I would agree with Marc said, and honestly, after the last 4 years, I would just be happy if they followed what was in what's the law. It's a crazy concept, but let's just follow the law. And what's currently on the books wasn't necessarily being followed. So I think it'll swing more towards, like Marc said, back to the middle, back to normal. And right now, I would love normal. Normal would be great.
Yeah. And Chad used to always say, it's what they were doing. They were moving the goalposts. So just when you kind of figure out the rules, they would move the goalposts, change the rules, change the game, and it just made things really tough. So another attorney, I forget who it was, always had the great analogy of what it was like to practice immigration during those 4 years. And it was their analogy was, it was like being a surgeon operating on a patient while someone is shaking the table, taking your tools away, and holding a gun to your head. That's what it's like. It was like.
That's fair.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So while we're on the new administration, though, are there other changes or things that people need to be aware of right now? Maybe global mobility managers who are managing programs, or immigration managers, global HR people, or RMCs that are watching right now. Any other things that are happening right now or on the horizon that we see happening? Yeah.
So I think the two big things is to keep an eye on this travel ban, because again, all these companies who have operations in Europe and China, they have people that they want to get here, and now they're not prohibited for applying for the visas, but those people still may not be able to get an appointment unless they can get this national interest exception. So keeping an eye on what happens with that travel ban. Again, we haven't even mentioned there's also they just extended it yesterday, the ban on non-essential land border travel between the U.S. and Canada and Mexico. I mean, that's been shut down now since last March. So I think keeping an eye on these travel restrictions and see how they pan out. You know, I think the hope is that we can find that, one, the COVID numbers get better, and that maybe you can find a way where you could tie like a testing requirement and then maybe relax some of those restrictions. But employers need to keep an eye on that, because that's going to be the key to getting people here. Because what we're hearing from our employers is, like, from an economic perspective and an operational perspective, they're ready to get their people here. They just can't. They can't do it as easily as they did before. So that's one thing to watch. And then even when those travel bans go away, I think the other big thing that is on our mind, it needs to be on all employers' minds, is that these consulates have been closed or limited capacity for a year, and a huge backlog has developed. I was on a call with some Department of State contacts, and this number shocked me, but they said there are still 75% of, even though they started like a phased in resumption of services within the last couple of months, 75% of consulates around the world are still at a severely limited, operating at a severely limited capacity. And their backlog is 7 times what it would normally be. And so what's going to happen is, even when these travel backlogs go away, and you can say, okay, now your person can get a visa, now your employee can actually travel to the U.S. without restriction, they still need to get an appointment at the consulate, and they're massively backlogged. So I think that's going to be the
What are those delays looking like, Mark? What do you think those delays? Like, you said 7 times normal, but what does that delay look like, you think, if you were just guessing?
I mean, right now, we have people, when you're trying to get a national interest exemption, you first have to apply for an appointment. They'll set out an appointment when they normally would have, and then you have to say, okay, but I need an emergency appointment, and then they try to get you in earlier if they believe that you qualify for that national interest exemption. But they were scheduling appointments out in November of this year, and that was last month. So it's significant, like several months. Whereas normally most of these consulates pre-COVID, again, European consulates, you get an appointment in 2 weeks. And so that's going to be the challenge when we come out of this. All the employers are going to be like, all right, all the restrictions are gone, let's go. And then the next and the last hurdle is going to be, how does the consulate dig out of this backlog? And one of the issues, I think, causing it too, is obviously for safety reasons. They didn't have their staff coming in and had a lot of people at home. But the Department of State doesn't allow people to do work from home. Like, you can only work on stuff if you're in the building. And they've been very inflexible about that. And so because of that, nothing has been getting done. If they could find a way to say, all right, we can put some IT systems in place or whatever we need to do to allow some of our staff to do some work while they're not in the building, maybe they can get caught up faster. But so far, they haven't indicated a willingness to do that. So I think that's the big thing that employers, maybe some employers are underestimating. They're just thinking, hey, when the travel restrictions going away, it's full speed ahead. And it's not going to be that way, and that's where again. But I think what we're going to do is, it's going to be all about how can we make compelling arguments to the consulate that your employee needs an emergency appointment or an urgent appointment because of what you need them to come here to do. And so it just adds that extra layer of advocacy on. And normally we're just making the arguments of why your employee qualifies for this specific visa category. Now we have to use even more of our advocacy muscles to say, okay, we've done that. Now we have to make an argument, a compelling argument, why your employee needs an emergency appointment over somebody else based on the purpose of their visit. But that's how we're going to attack it.
It's really interesting. So it sounds like the strategy then is to go with the emergency and then just do a really good job being persuasive. We have another question here around travel. You brought up travel restrictions being, there's immigration policy and procedure, and then there's travel policy. And Elizabeth has a question. I think this is on everybody's mind, right? I say probably one of the top 3 questions that we're all asking is, when the heck can I go see people? Can I, a U.S. citizen, go to a conference in London in June without staying in quarantine for 10 days since I am fully vaccinated? So I know you're not necessarily travel experts, but you probably touch it more than most of us do. So what are your thoughts for Elizabeth?
Yeah. Our vendor, I know you're watching, weigh in on this. But yeah, so I think that even regardless of she's a citizen vaccinated, I think she still might need to, but let's see if our vendor can weigh in on this. But it's literally changing every day now, and I think she's talking about when she goes to the UK, whether she'd have to quarantine. The other thing is when you come back, there's also an issue of different states have different rules, and if you're coming back, there's no federal quarantine requirement right now in the U.S., but states specifically have some, and depending on what country you're coming back from, you could be facing one, possibly when you come back.
Yeah, but quarantining here in the U.S. is different than quarantining in other
For
countries.
sure.
We had Lyndon Hotby from WHR Group, on, and she was talking about going to Singapore. I mean, she goes into Singapore. She goes into I
read that blog.
Yeah,
That
like I
blog
want to say
post
like a
is fascinating.
state-controlled hotel or something like that, and they're checking on her, and like she's under lockdown, and they're bringing food to her door for her, and she's in that room for 14 days, and people aren't wanting to mess with that now. In some places like here, you quarantine, and they're like, hey, go home and stay there, and it's like, all right, got it, So I mean, that's kind of a different thing.
Yeah, Elizabeth, we'll have our vendor, our UK guy, give you an up-to-date answer on that, and we'll reach out to you after the show.
You mentioned the backlog and all the work at the consulate level. When does all of that kind of subside? I mean, how long until do you think can work through that kind of stuff and start getting back to a normal cadence? What do you think our corporate mobility folks watching this should expect that to get back to normal, so to speak?
Right. Again, if the Department of State doesn't engage any kind of changes to how they do work and allowing people to do work remotely or something like that, I think it could be first quarter of next year before things start looking normal, and that's assuming everything kind of settles down COVID wise here by June. So I think it's Q1, maybe even into Q2, where you could say, hey, we're back to 2-week appointments, unless the Department of State does something. And they have options. I mean, you could do interviews by video. You could have your people do remote work. There's things that they can do. It's just whether or not they will do it. It's a big question.
I want to switch this up real quick, and we've kind of been talking a lot about kind of COVID and kind of what's going on here, but I kind of want to talk about maybe more strategic stuff here. So I was talking to a global mobility person today, and she was like, we went out to an RFP for immigration services, and I'm reviewing those, right now. And I said to her, I don't know a ton about the space, but just out of curiosity, what's important to you on an immigration RFP? And what do you think they said, Marc, Shaju?
I'm going to say technology, communication, responsiveness, proactivity, reporting, data analytics.
Yeah. Shaju, what do you think they said?
Witty personality.
I mean, Marc just said like 8 things. So which of the 8 things Marc said?
Took them all up.
Yeah, I'm going with witty personality for. No, I would agree. I think responsiveness is always huge on our clients' minds, and technology. Everyone is looking for a tech solution, an interface. Those are 2 of the biggest things.
Yeah, and she said the experience. She said the employee experience. And I thought that was interesting, and I kind of thought it was also a little cliche, to be completely honest with you, because we hear about experience all the time. It's one of these broad words like experience, communication, and things like that. And I said, well, how do you gauge employee experience in an RFP? Like, it kind of seemed like the wrong vehicle to use, to be honest with you. But what are your thoughts about the immigration employee experience? I mean, what is the state of that? As kind of, speaking to someone who's kind of an outsider or an observer here, what are your thoughts about the immigration employee experience?
I mean, I would say that the one silver lining of the pandemic, right? It gave everybody a chance to kind of, step back and kind of think about things and strategically and planning and forward looking. And one of the things we spent a lot of time on was this idea of what we call immigration experience management. And it's a term that we are, it's one of those things where we look back at how we deliver service and we're like, yeah, that encompasses everything we've kind of done. But it kind of puts a name on it and a focus on how we want to deliver our service. And to us, what that means is, and you hear a lot of it in the HR field, like experience management now has been around for a couple years. SAP moved from the human capital management to human experience management. So you hear that talk, and it's a great thing to focus on an employee-centric model for how you work with your employees. But I think in immigration, it hasn't quite made it there yet. And I think in immigration, what you see is a lot of first, there's a lot of firms who are just doing what they call case management. And what to me, a case management focus means it's centered on the attorney. It's centered on what do they need technology-wise, process-wise, to streamline the preparation of the application. I mean, that's a good thing. You want streamlined application, but that shouldn't be the only focus. And then the next progression from case management was this idea of program management. So program management is for bigger mobility programs and looking at the program more holistically, and looking at data and compliance across the program to make sure you're doing a good job with data management, tracking expiration dates, and that you're making sure across the board you have the compliance structure in place. Also, very good things.
Is there reporting in that too, Mark, included in that?
Reporting, yeah, for sure, data reporting. And that's kind of what program management, so that's all good, but then I think the piece that's missing from even program management is that there's people behind the data, and there's HR and global mobility professionals behind those compliance processes. And so the way we think about immigration experience management is that you got to start with the shareholders in this process, which are the international employees and the HR mobility professionals who are there to support them, and build the entire system around them, from technology to process to compliance. And I think when you start thinking about that way, you think about, and for us, I didn't list, technology is one of those things that for us, it facilitates better communication, which is a key to immigration experience management. It facilitates better process visibility. It facilitates more convenient services for the client, more proactive data analytics and everything like that. And so for us, that needs to be the focus, and you need to build everything around it. And like I think like compliance, I think right now a lot of HR and global mobility people feel like, hey, if no one's 100% compliant immigration. It's impossible to keep up with everything, but they're always being pushed by their firms who are more of a program management focus to say, look, you got to do these more things to be more compliant, but doing those more things adds to your administrative burden. And what we believe is that there are ways to use this kind of immigration experience management mindset to say, hey, you can use technology and processes in a creative way to increase compliance while you're decreasing your administrative burden. And that needs to be the goal. Or you need to use technology not to replace the client interactions with us and the communication, but to supplement it, give the attorneys more time to spend with clients. It still boggles my mind that we talk to big clients and they're working with firms, and their policy of how they've negotiated their relationship is that the firms will only talk to the HR global mobility professionals. They will not talk to the individuals, the employees themselves. How you can deliver—
that seems crazy to me. How do you do that? Yeah.
Well, how do you deliver an employee, a world-class, delightful employee experience when you're not even supposed to talk to your attorney? Because one of the biggest drivers of a bad immigration experience for employees is anxiety, because they don't know what's happening, or they fear the worst, or things are changing and they don't understand.
I hear that all the time. All the time. Global mobility people to me all the time. Whenever I ask them what's the number one pain point in immigration, they always say, my people don't know what's going on. They're not getting updates. And I presume that the immigration attorneys are saying, well, I don't have an update. There is no update. That's why you're not getting an update. But people's whole lives are hanging in the balance, and they just need to know if they're coming or going,
Right.
I would add the one lens, though, that I think it's important to look at, and I think one thing that we do different at Ellis Porter is we have a mentality of that we're not outside counsel. We feel like we're your in-house immigration counsel. And I think looking at it from that way, that they're not just clients, they're your employees, and it feels like they're our employees too. So we're all kind of in the same direction, and our attitude is all on the same mission. And I think that's really important. And as Mark said, we are all about talking to these employees and laying out everything that's going to happen. And I feel when they talk directly to the attorney, their anxiety level goes down. Because sometimes, the message is lost, and it's like a game of telephone, and you might tell somebody within the company, and then when they say it, the foreign national's like, that didn't sound right, or and as soon as they
sound confident, they didn't sound like they really knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, and as soon as they hear it from us, what we've seen, and people always wonder, we're going to take unlimited calls. We're not charging by the minute. How are you going to pull that off? And yeah, on the front end, we might spend an hour and a half talking to someone, walking them through everything that's going to happen. And what we've seen It could be our amazing voice. I mean, we have good voices here at EP, but their anxiety level just plummets, and they're confident in us. They understand the process. And when you have those two things, and now they're not really going back to their employer and asking for updates, and they're able to focus on what you hired them to do, which is the job, because they know we're doing our job. And it all starts with us thinking that we're not outside counsel. We're your in-house immigration counsel. We just happen to be here in Michigan.
I have one client. I spent so much time there. They gave me a badge, and I walk around the halls, and there are people at that company who think I work there. They always say, "What? You don't work for this company?" So, but yeah, that is our goal, to feel like we're an extension of your department, and again, just to over communicate. And I think, not to brag, but the one thing I think we're really good at as Ellis Porter is breaking down these really complex subjects and being able to explain them in a really clear way. And we tell every new attorney at our firm, like, the best compliment you can ever get as an Ellis Porter attorney is if you talk to a client and they tell you, "Hey, I've talked to 3 or 4 other attorneys and I never really understood how this worked, but now I get it." And that's what we're shooting for, and that's our goal in every client interaction.
Nice.
Because if you don't do that and they don't understand, I don't care how smart of a lawyer you are, you didn't do your job.
Yeah.
Cool. Speaking of explaining things, I think it's time for a top 5. You guys ready for this?
This is a good one. Yeah.
You ready for this? All right, here we go.
I don't know if the audience is ready for this, Ben.
Yeah.
All right, Marc, Shaju, what is our top 5 for today?
So a top 5 is, so at Ellis Porter, again, we love immigration. We believe in immigration and not only the economic prosperity it brings to the country, but just the cultural diversity. And we are huge foodies at Ellis Porter. So we do field trips, and everything we do is around immigrant food. And not what we love more than just good old ethnic immigrant food is immigrant fusion food, where you're taking the best of 2 cultures, mixing them together into something that's really delicious. So
I mean, isn't that like a microcosm of America, right? As you're taking all the great stuff and kind of throwing it together. This is awesome. All right, so well, let's get into it. Number 5.
Shaju,
okay, yeah. Number 5. I'll start with 5. I feel like David Letterman here. Fago infused.
And that's Fago, F-A-Y-G-O.
Not Fuego.
Yeah.
We got a little
Fuego.
spelling. Stace, my bad. It's F-A-Y-G-O.
I like the Fuego, though.
Yeah,
I
got
like
fire
ribs.
Fire ribs. Yeah, Fago infused ribs. We've been to a few places here in Michigan that focus on rock and rye specifically, or red pop infused ribs. And Marc will tell you how Fago is an immigrant.
I was going to say, and you may say, well, where's the immigration connection there, Shaju? But Fago, again, iconic Detroit, what we pop company, it's not soda, we call it pop here. Iconic pop company, Fago, and it was founded by Russian immigrants. So just another example of, when you look around whatever your city is and the things that just seem like ingrained in your culture, a lot of them are only there because of immigrants, and Fago is one of those things in Detroit. Russian immigrants.
Yeah, Fago's a big soda. I call it a soda.
Look at you! Look what he did there! Look what he did there! He wants to fight. All right.
Big soda. It's a big soda.
Right.
That and Verner's big soda.
When I lived in the South, they said they just call it Coke, even if it wasn't Coke. They called it Coke, and I'm like,
everything's a
doesn't
Coke.
Make any
Pass
sense
me a
to
Coke. Pass me a Coke. What kind of Coke you want? I want a Dr. Pepper. All right.
That made no sense to me. Never did.
It's an actual conversation I've had more than once in my life. All right, number 4.
All right, I'll take that one. So I'm the representative, the ambassador to Poland within Ellis Porter. Half of my family's Polish. So if you know what a pierogi is, it's like a Polish dumpling thing. Usually it has like potatoes or sauerkraut in it. But here in Detroit, they make a coney dog pierogi. So the filling is the chili, the cheese, the onions, and a little bit of the hot dog inside of a pierogi. It's heaven.
Seems like a big pierogi.
Yeah. A little rough on the gastrointestinal system, but it's delicious.
So this is another issue I had with Detroit. Okay, I go to Detroit. I grew up in New York. I go to Detroit. Every corner, what we would call a diner, y'all would call a Coney Island. And I'm like, Coney Island's an actual place in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Why is every diner called a Coney Island?
So I just actually read an article about that recently. So one of the two famous Coney's in Detroit, Lafayette and American. Funny story, there was two Greek immigrants, right? They came over, started these. They started. I forget which one was first. Was it American or Lafayette? One of them started. These two brothers.
American.
They got in a fight, and they said we don't want to do business with each other. So the one brother left, opened his own Coney right next door. So
literally next door. Next door. Same building next door.
But the story for why they call them Coney's is they said because a lot of these immigrants were coming over Ellis Island, getting off the boat, and that Coney Island region was one of the areas of New York where they would kind of one of the neighborhoods they would go through. And at the time, again, there's a lot of hot dogs stuff going on there. And so when they ended up wherever they were going to end up in the United States, whether it's Detroit or somewhere else, they said, hey, this is a Coney Island restaurant because I'm serving the same food that I ate in Coney Island when I got off the boat.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great story, except Detroit is the only city that calls them Coney Islands. I've never been anywhere else where there's been Coney Island restaurants. This is interesting. All right, number 3.
Currywurst. Number 3 is Currywurst. And
you can say it a bunch of times, but I'm never going to understand what it is. So you might as well define it.
It's basically like a bratwurst with a little curry flavor in it. And it's huge in Germany.
And that
Berlin.
ketchup sauce that has curry in the ketchup sauce.
Yeah.
And so again, you got a German Indian fusion going on. I understand they're like it's on every street corner in Berlin.
Yeah.
And I had never tried one until recently. There was this German pop-up restaurant here in Detroit. Some people from Germany did a pop-up, and they were serving this currywurst. I'm like, this is great. And I think I was told, and I've never been hungover, but I'm told that it's a good food.
He went to Michigan State.
Yeah, we're gonna mute Mark so he stops lying to the people over here, okay? Because he's a lawyer. He could be disbarred for these lies he's telling the public over here.
No drinking at Michigan State. It was a dry college.
Oh my gosh, it's great. Currywurst. This is fantastic. People are loving this right now. Sandra Clary says, "Team called everything a Coke." Where I grew up, that was my exact quote regarding that. And I'll have a Dr. Pepper. Yep, 100%. Because everybody in Dallas, everybody in Texas drinks Dr. Pepper, but they call it a Coke. It's so bizarre. So bizarre. This is great. Sandra says, "This is really great. I love seeing the passion that Marc and Shaju have for what they do and the mission of their firm."
Thanks, Sandra.
Very cool. Arvinder finally came back, really milking those billables. Hopefully soon there will be exemptions for individuals who are fully vaccinated. At this time, U.S. citizens are permitted to enter the U.K. However, you'll need to quarantine for 10 days and book 2 government-purchased COVID-19 tests. Hotel quarantine is only required for individuals traveling from through a red list country. This is a fluid time. The entry and exit requirements may be different by June. If anything changes, we will reach. Arvinder says we will reach out to you. That's that's a big commitment, Arvinder. Reach out to me too, Arvinder. Okay, let me know. Put me on that email.
Reading through that, Ben, I got that vibe. Did you see Old School when Will Ferrell did that speech and then he passed out at the end?
Yeah,
that was the vibe I got from you right there.
Seriously, listen, I just read what's on the teleprompter. I have no idea if any of this is even true. Number 2.
All right, I'm gonna take that one because Shaju gets number 1. So
Sir.
Punchki beer and vodka. So again, I'm staying with the Polish theme. I love Punchki. Even in my bio, it says I'm open to telling anybody about the health benefits of Punchki, and those benefits are only eat them once a year. You can eat 8 on the same day, but just only do it once a year. That's the health benefit. A lot of protein in those Punchki. But what's been fascinating to me. So there was a Detroit distillery here in Detroit made a Punchki vodka last year. Tried it. It was really good. Got on the list to do it this year. I mean, they literally sold out in like 10 minutes. I bought like 6 bottles. Again, wife thought I was crazy, but I love Punchki vodka. So when I went down to pick it up in Eastern Market, there's this place called Eastern Market. So this vodka is made, they distill it. They take Punchkis that were made in a bakery in Hamtramck. They throw dozens of them into the vat and just let them sit there. So you get that kind of like doughy raspberry powder sugar flavor infused into the vodka. It's really good. And then when we were down there you go. Eastern Market Brewing Company, as we're in line to pick up the Punchki vodka, they said, we have Punchki beer. And I said, I'd never heard of Punchki beer. And so I went, grabbed some Punchki beer. Like, this is delicious. I didn't know it was a thing. Went home, did some internet research, and found 2 other breweries in Detroit, Griffin Claw and Baffin Brewing, who also made a punchki beer. And so I said, all right, I got my wife. I said, and it was about the same time I had found this Currywurst place. I'm like, all right, Julie, we're going to get in the car. We're going to go to the Currywurst pop-up, and then we're going to drive to St. Clair Shores to get punchki beer at Baffin. Then we're going to drive to Griffin Claw and get it there. And then we came home. We had a tasting. It was a wonderful evening.
And he's never been hungover.
Yeah,
I was gonna say he might have drove over the legal limit that day, but he's never been hungover. Jackie,
but if you get a chance to try punchki beer, I highly recommend it. It's awesome.
Jackie Rowan says these guys definitely make immigration sound like fun.
See, Shaju wasn't lying.
Awesome. But you know who is lying? Catherine Topoleski says, I can vouch for Currywurst, but I cannot vouch for Marc Topoleski never being hungover.
That is my daughter, Katie.
Oh, there we
go. Wow.
Keep your enemies close, Mark.
Upstairs. I can hear my wife laughing from upstairs. That's hilarious. Katie goes to Michigan State too, as does my older daughter, so they know a little bit about that.
Yeah. Nice.
They've never been hungover either, Gracie or Kate.
No, never.
No, that's great. Number one,
butter chicken pizza. Domino's, Little Caesars, where are you guys at? This needs to be on every menu. We've got a couple of local places here that do amazing fusion Indian and Indian pizzas, like all different kinds. But yeah, butter chicken pizza is ridiculous. And if you haven't tried it, you need to try it. If you don't like it, send the bill to Mark. He'll pay for it.
Got it.
Money back guarantee, 100%. You know the one I like. So this is how I like it. Okay. So I like it on like a naan. I like it on a nice like buttered naan or a garlic naan. You slather that orange butter chicken that's like some crazy color orange. I don't know how they make it. And then I don't know what kind of cheese they put on it. If they put like what do they put on it? They put just like a regular mozzarella.
I've had mozzarella. I've had paneer, which is an Indian type of cheese. Yeah, I've had different.
Does paneer melt though? Paneer doesn't melt, does it? Or does it?
If you put enough heat on it, it'll melt. Anything will melt if you.
So you hit it with a pear burner. Hit it with a good old Texas pear burner, and then you throw like some chopped cilantro, some fresh red onion on that thing. Oh my! That's
I heard, Ben, you frequented the Indian buffets here in Detroit every once in a while.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I sure did.
That's one of the things I missed from COVID.
Yeah,
no Indian buffets.
I'd pick it up. I'd sit in my car like just shamefully eating butter chicken out of styrofoam in the parking lot. You know, I wouldn't let it stop me. But
there's probably some good Indian in Texas, Shaju, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's some amazing. There's a great hybrid place in Houston too. We went to. It's they had Indian like butter chicken quesadillas and different.
Oh, now you're talking.
Yeah, I think it's called Red Lion in Houston. I don't know. It's been a minute since I've been there, but yeah, they definitely in Dallas as well. They have some incredible fusion places.
Somebody look that up. Put a link in the comments there for that spot. Yeah, you know, I will say, because I was working in Farmington Hills, in the Farmington Hills area. Shaju's got a visitor over there. It's great. Yeah, he's got a mask on. Don't worry. But in Farmington Hills, I mean, that's like the epicenter. I mean, there are so many good Indian restaurants, Indian buffets over there. But Shaju, where's the best butter chicken pizza spot in the D?
Ooh, so you're gonna get me in trouble. Like this is like I go in the.
He tells them all they're the best.
Dude, if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. Okay.
Yeah, so I stand for not getting. I stand for not getting butter chicken pizza when I go to the wrong establishment. I don't know. I'm a fan of. There's a place in Troy called Jitty's, and that place is pretty ridiculous.
Put in the comments. Look it up. Put in the comments.
It's valid, as my kids would say. It's valid.
It's valid. Yeah, JITIS. No relation, no association, but I will take a discount if this goes viral. And but Jitty's is pretty amazing over in Troy.
And the owner is awesome too. He's a cool guy.
He's really cool. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. This is great. I agree with Jackie. You guys make immigration sound fun. This is really cool. I appreciate all the food recommendations as well. This has been a lot of fun. I want to thank everybody who tuned in today and watched this. Shaju, Mark, I'd love to, give you just the opportunity to leave us with a final thought. Shaju, would you like to go first?
Oh man. Well, thank you so much for having us on the show. I'm glad people say we make immigration sound fun. We're definitely passionate about it. We're passionate about people we get to work with, our clients. And I know I'm biased, but I think we have the best team in town. We just have amazing professionals who are just as passionate about immigration, what we do. So thank you for letting us get to speak to your audience. And if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to us and be more than happy to assist in any way we can.
All right, there's the Jitties link. It's going viral.
Nice.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I just want to say, thanks for thanks for this platform and what you do, Ben. I mean, to me, it's just so awesome to hear what other people in this industry are doing, because immigration is just one little piece of this. We do the U.S., the global stuff, but there's so many parts, and they just all need to work together. So I appreciate the platform, what you do, and when I tell people that you not only do you do this show, but you do it every day. It blows people's minds. So that's pretty awesome. But yeah, to everybody out there, I would say, look, it's been tough sledding in immigration the past 4.5 years. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train coming at us anymore. There really is a hope on the way, and I think we're optimistic that, again, America is a country that welcomes immigrants, and it always has been and always will be. We'll get through this period. And I think, by partnering with our clients and just not giving up, we'll be able to get through this, and we'll get back to normalcy sooner rather than later. But we still got some work to do, but we're here to help any way that we can. So thanks.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment as well. I think that probably the best thing that we have going in this country is our culture, and the fact that people want to be here, right? Our employment brand is we attract the top talent in the world, and as long as we continue to attract the top talent in the world, and be the employer of preference for the smartest, brightest, most entrepreneurial people in the world, I think we'll continue to be leaders. So let's just keep that in mind.
But we can't take it for granted. But we can't take it for granted, right?
You're right. Thank you, Marc. Thank you, Shaju. Thank you, everybody, to tune in today. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow. We have Patricia Tavares, the founder of Brazil Talks and the country manager of K2 Mobility in Brazil, on tomorrow. It should be an amazing show. I appreciate everybody who came here